All right, good afternoon. This Wednesday afternoon, we're going to do two Rashis from today's Aliyah, the fourth Aliyah, Parshas Chayei Sara. An interesting Parsha with lots to say, but we'll get to two specific points just right now. In the fourth Aliyah, we see Eliezer finally arrive at the home of Besuel. He had met Rivka at the well in the previous Aliyah, the end of the third Aliyah. He's very happy. Vayomer, it's at the beginning of the Aliyah, Baruch Hashem Elokei Adoni Abraham. As I mentioned this morning after davening, it's the second time in the Torah that Baruch Hashem is mentioned, a phrase we use so often. Eliezer uses that here. He's happy Hashem had blessed his pathway and allowed him to find the right person. And of course, Rivka goes back home to report what she had discovered and invites Eliezer to come stay at their home. After Eliezer comes, Laban runs out to him. Rashi says Laban is running out because of his riches, the riches that he sees Eliezer carrying, etc., etc. And they come into the home. After they come into the home, the following pasuk comes: Vayusam lefanav lechol, vayomer lo ochal ad im dibarti devarai vayomer daber. So he's offered food, and Eliezer says, I am very appreciative. I'll eat the food, but I can't eat a thing until you let me say my word, until you let me say my piece. You let me say my thing. I have a lot on my mind. I need to share with you, and here's how it goes. And so they say, Vayomar, Eved Avraham Anochi. He says to them, number one, you should know I'm here on a mission. I'm not here for myself. I'm Eved Avraham. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Avraham, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mission. And he goes on to tell the entire story. Hashem berach hasaduni me'od. My master is very wealthy. He laden me with all these gifts to bring for you. And his wife Sara had a son in their old age. And Avram is giving everything over to this son. He's the one who's going to inherit all. And he made me swear that I wouldn't take a wife for him from any of the people of Canaan, any of the people of that land, but that I would come to Artso, to his homeland. And today I came, etc., etc., etc. He tells the entire story over here of all of what transpired that day and how he came to his home and how he's requesting Rivka as a wife. So Chazal make a very important statement, which is quoted here by Rashi, which I think is very nice for us to think about at least this point before we get to one of the detailed Rashis. Rashi quotes here in Pasuk Membe is the Mamar Chazal, Amar Ba'acha, Yafe sichastan shel avdei bate avos lifnei hamakom mitorasan shel banim. What you can deduce from this whole passage, Pasuk after Pasuk after Pasuk, I didn't count here, but 10, 15 psukim, describing the whole series of events that led Eliezer to this point, which we know already, which we read already about in terms of it actually happening in the previous psukim of our parsha. Now Eliezer recounts the entire thing to Lavan. And instead of the Torah just telling us, okay, Eliezer opened up and said this thing to Lavan and retraced the whole story, the Torah retells the entire conversation of Eliezer with Lavan over here, with the house of Lavan over here. And Chazal conclude from that it must be that the sicha, the speech of Avdei Bate Avos, of the servants of the house of our ancestors, is more precious before God than the Torah of the children of that household, meaning us, the Jewish people. Why? How do you know that? Chayei Parsha Eliezer Kfula b'Torah. This whole passage about Eliezer's trip is doubled in the Torah. We learn about it when it happens. First, we learn about Avram's instruction to Eliezer. Then we learn about it actually transpiring. And now we read the entire recap by Eliezer, the home of Lavan and Besuel, the home of Rivka. So we have the entire passage here repeated. It's kfula, it's doubled. And yet, harbe gufei Torah shelo nitnu ela b'remiza. There are many gufei Torah, major pillars of Torah, of observance of halacha, which are not even explicitly taught in the Torah. They're taught through remiza, through a hint, through a word, through an analogy, through a homiletic device through which we derive it from the Torah, from a missing vav, from a missing yud, from an additional et. Entire corpuses of Torah, entire masechtas of Gemara derived from a missing vav, not even explicitly stated in the Torah. And yet here we have 15, 20 psukim repeating the whole story of what transpired with Eliezer. The only thing, say Chazal, that we can conclude is that the sicha, even the language, the conversation, of a person who was a servant in the home of our ancestors is more precious than the entire Torah, Gufei Torah of the Jewish people. It's a pretty major statement. I think it's hyperbolic to some degree. I don't think this is actually accurate. The Gufei Torah are clearly more important. But I think what Chazal are conveying here and what Rashi is quoting here is the idea that proximity to people of greatness can teach us so much. If we are Zocha, we merit to be in the proximity of great people. That's incredible. We can learn so much from watching them, so much explicitly and so much by osmosis, just by being in their presence. If we can meet the people who were in the house of someone great, we can learn a lot. Not only that, but even through the record of the conversation, of the recap of a servant who happened to have been in a house of great people, even then, there's what to learn. Even then, it's worth it for the Torah to spend 15, 20, 30 psukim going over this a second time, simply to teach us that lesson. Even if we learn nothing new about this particular story, even if no new details are revealed to us here, which I don't think is true, we do learn new details. But even if that were the case, it would be worth the Torah mentioning it, including it, in order to show us the value of listening carefully, even to the recap conversations, even of a servant who had been in the house of someone great. I think it just reinforces the general principle to us about how much we have to learn from each other, and specifically how much we have to seek out a relationship with those who we admire, those who we feel are great, those who we feel have what to teach us. Because even without knowing it, we will indeed be able to learn from them. Something very important for us to remember. One more quick Rashi here, just on a more minute point. Eliezer in this conversation says, Va'omar ladoni, I said to my master when he was dispatching me to this mission, Ulai lo selech haisha acharai. Maybe the woman who I find as a wife for Yitzchak won't want to follow me back to Canaan. What do I do then? He presents that scenario to Avram. So Rashi notes that it doesn't say Ulai, Aleph, Vav, Lamed Yud. It's written Chaser. It's written missing the Vav. Eli, Ksiv, or Eli, Ksiv, not Ulai. That missing Vav, again, to talking about missing letters and how much it teaches us. So Rashi explains that this word, which is Chaser, which is missing the Vav, is meant to alert us to some important lesson over here, which is to clue us in that there's not only an Ulai here, but Eli over here. There's something being directed between Avram and Eliezer over here. And what that is Bas Haitel Eliezer, Vayamachazer Limto Ela, Sheyomer Lo Avram Lifno Selav La'asio Labito. Eliezer had a daughter. He was hoping there would be some excuse for him to say to Avram, you have no choice but to marry off Yitzchak to my daughter. What a beautiful shidduch. He wouldn't dare to say that to begin with, but if he could find an excuse, hey, Avram, you sent me to find a wife. She wouldn't come back. She was the right one. What do we do now? Maybe there's an opening. Maybe there's a Pesach for him to suggest, or for Avram on his own to realize that maybe his daughter should be married to Yitzchak. So that's lurking in the background over here. But Avram's instruction back to Eliezer, despite that hint, was Amar lo Avraham b'ni Baruch v'ata'arur ve'ein arum medabek b'Baruch. Now, our worlds cannot be combined. My son is blessed, your world is cursed. I don't want the two to mix, and therefore the idea is off the table. And the little chaser here of the Vav is hinting us and cluing us in to the whole backstory here of what was transpiring between Eliezer and Avram in the original story, and why it was so important for Avram to continue to reinforce and to cause Eliezer to swear that he would only take a wife for Yitzchak from that land, and that he would not leave him there, and that he would do whatever it took to bring her back. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi, and everyone else too.
You too.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
So, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Rabbi?
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So if I remember,
See you
it's been a-
tonight.
It's been a few years, but if I remember correctly, Nechama Leibowitz takes the Eliezer speech, aligns it to the earlier one, and her specific differences. But I think her overall point was, look at how Eliezer told the story so that Lavan and the other guy would have to say Hashem did this, to put it in the context of making it look like it's really from Hashem.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Your memory serves you well. She has a great passage on this, on the comparison of the two pieces and how that comes out in various details. Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Take care.